right, rock and roll. Welcome back to the Verdigris Table. My name is Ryan Doyle. This is D20 Questions, and I'm delighted to have Tegan here with us today. He's agreed to be subjected to this nonsense. So first of all, thank you for joining us. I appreciate it, Tegan.
I love rolling dice, so I'm excited to see what crazy stuff we get today.
So I discovered your YouTube channel actually looking at Old Gods of Appalachia, which is amazing and doesn't get enough coverage, at least in the TTRPG space. If you're looking for a new game or a new podcast,
That
check
too.
that out. But yeah, man, I just love the vibes over there. You go through a game a month and you do it very well. You do like initial impression, deep dive. You actually play the thing, which I think is important in TTRPG reviews. So we're playing a little inside baseball before we hit record here. But what is the process like for picking the next game? Because I'm kind of jealous, honestly. I want to be running 12 TTRPGs a year easily and consistently. What's your secret?
It's a lot of fun. I wish I had a process. It's usually just like me kind of seeing what looks fun and like, okay, I'll buy that. And like right now, I've got like 6 games on my shelf that I haven't played yet. And I kind of start cycling through and so the new will come out and then those ones get pushed back. And really it's super chaotic. It's just kind of what strikes my fancy at that month and kind of what time I has allows kind of because sometimes between the crunchy and the non-crunchy, if I have a busy month coming up, I'll pick something that's a little bit lighter. If I've got a month where I've got time, like let's dive into the crunch.
Hmm. I like that. You just recently did a video of like categorization, I would say. I think people get too in the weeds sometimes about like rigidly defining the terms of it all, but you did a very like user-friendly, like here's how, knowing this about these games is going to help you relate to them and approach them. And you go from like one pages to like the crunchiest crunchy. And I feel like a lot of your content is super open-ended. It's like kind of recognizes that 5e is the 5,000 pound gorilla in the room. And you kind of like create this pipeline from 5e, which is where most people are, and honestly, most people probably watching this are, into other TTRPGs. And I think what makes you unique in some ways is that you do it without just bashing 5e constantly, which I think is a better strategy to entice people who are playing one game to come play another. So yeah, man, I appreciate that greatly. You're doing also a Pathfinder 2e playthrough right now, Pandemonium. That's a lot of fun watching streams. How's that been?
That's been a blast. And what I'll kind of go back a little bit too, because that's one of the things I see a lot in the TTRPG space. What I really do on my channel to be, because I think a lot of people started 5e, or especially even a lot of people who got their start GMing in 5e. Because like I started, I always say I can't remember which one. It was either 3.5 or Pathfinder. I flipped and did the other one after the first one, but I wasn't really a dedicated player back then. But then 5e came out, and my friends got us back playing, and then that's the first time I started my hand with the GM side of
Hmm.
the screen. So I think it's just so many people have gotten their start there. And while there are issues with 5e, and I don't play as much myself anymore, there's I think it's really good for the industry with how many people it's brought in. And just kind of finding a way to get them to see other RPGs and other things, especially that'll fit their interests. Because a lot of 5e GMs, myself included, back in the day, will just try to keep mashing it until it fits whatever mold they want it to go in. But there's a lot of cool RPGs that can do that without tons of headache on your part.
Yeah, there's a lot of reinventing the wheel out there, and there's some like beautiful wheels on the shelf. There's some crazy stuff out there these days. It's never been better. We are in a golden age, and
Definitely.
I think it's only getting better after the last year. It's a funny like balancing point, like a healthy D&D is like the tip of the spear that brings people into the hobby, right? There's never been more people playing fifth edition or everything else because of D&D success. Um, but like the opposite side of that coin is it kind of sucks all the air out of the room sometimes.
It
Uh,
does, 'cause I feel like a lot of people just they think TTRPG and D&D is like the only thought. Like I get it being the first thought, but it feels bad sometimes when it's the only thought that kind of comes up with TTRPG in the industry and some market. So I'm glad that it kind of brings people in, and I'm always happy when they either continue playing 5e but try some others, or just kind of at least kind of just shop around a bit in the market.
yeah, and I think what you said about like other games fit other stories or tones or genres or like ability to manage a million rules because you're busy or not. There's a wide variety and a lot of options, and I think a lot of people struggle, well, not struggle, but like a lot, it took a lot of energy to learn 5e enough to play it, let alone run it, so they're afraid of picking up something else. But 5e is on the heavier side of the spectrum, and I don't think a lot of folks don't realize that without experiencing other systems out there.
I completely agree with that. And that's one thing I would say to GMs. If you've learned 5e enough to be confident to DM it and kind of run it yourself, it'll be easy to pick up other systems because you know how to read a system typically, and you can really kind of easily translate it. And especially if you go for lighter systems like Blades, the Dark, or some of the OSR systems,
Hmm.
it'll be a breeze to pick up. It's what you need to know to play, and you can kind of pick up the rest along the way.
And it's interesting because you don't start from zero. I think a lot of what you know, if you started at 5e, like half or more of what you learned was like running a ttrpg. These are like skills that translate to whatever system. And ultimately, what you're doing is grabbing little bits and pieces of every system that you like and making your own Frankenstein monster. Whether it
That's been
be,
a little bit with pandemonium. Like I've stolen this stuff from other systems. I'm like, okay, that's fun. That works well. Or that piece, like out for Old Gods of Appalachia. One of the things I love with that system, and I think they got it from the Cipher system, was like the GM intrusions. I think
mm,
that's just a fun thing for GMs to have something that's codified in the rules. To be able to say, hey, this happens, but like I want something fun, dramatic to happen, orcs attack or whatever it is, just to keep
mhm.
everything moving, keep it spicy. That's something I've kind of started bringing to other systems too, just to kind of keep that thrill going with the easy thing with your in your toolkit.
Yeah, know your audience, and your audience is the GM, and like they don't have I mean, technically, I guess we kind of have every move, but there's like, oh, there's a button for the GM to push now. Like the players have a million, but now the GM has one. And yeah, I conceptually liked Cypher. I know like I haven't played like the root of the Cypher system. But again, you don't have to take it or leave it as it is. You can pull the pieces out that you enjoy. Um, and yeah, there's a lot. There's so much to learn from and grow. It's like finding a restaurant that you like and being like, this is the only restaurant I'm ever going to go to again. It's like, well, there's better ways to live your life.
Like, there's so many ways to live it. You can kind of like, especially even with the restaurant, they like go to a different restaurant. You kind of come back to that other restaurant you went to and find different sides or different add-ons or pieces to customize it out and have some more fun with it.
Yeah. And if you're trying to get people to try the restaurant that you like, being like, you're wrong for liking this restaurant, not the approach. People on the internet, chill out a little bit, please.
Really is it? Because I spent a lot of time lurking around like the Reddit with the RRPG and the Pathfinder, and a lot of the other ones too. And it's just like I have issues with 5e too, but don't like that's their main system. And nobody ever was like, "Oh, your system sucks." Okay, I'll change, I guess. But like nobody's ever like that.
Yeah. I mean, I think the point is, at least in like the subreddits and all that, the point is to like, I'm part of the team and this is the in group. And it's not necessarily like psychologically trying to appeal to outsiders. And when I'm like YouTube, that's the crap that gets the clicks. Like, oh, this is why
Yeah,
it sucks. And yeah, I appreciate you not leading on that to teach us new and exciting things out there. It's just a good approach to things.
that was one of the things about channel I wanted to do because a lot of the negativity does get clicks unfortunately on YouTube. So I try to keep mine positive. Like I mean, like every system I played hasn't been my favorite, but I know with like the old Stanleys, every comic is somebody's favorite comic. Every system is somebody's favorite system. So I always try to give every system a fair shake, even if it's something that's not going to be in my usual rotation. I always want to give it that positive spin and kind of bring out the cool things for it.
I think you mentioned it in passing just now, but Fabula, Fabula. I'm never comfortable saying that out loud. But Fabula Ultimate, it's like a JTTRPG, right? It's like a Final
Yeah,
Fantasy vibe. That's your current focus in March. Old Gods of Appalachia we talked about. I just Lancer is one that I've never tried, but it's like been on the list forever. I just like I want the crunchiest mech builds attachment thing ever. Like,
it's
um,
so much fun. It's like playing like Armored Core at the table, and everybody gets some crazy design. It's what I wish I had more time to play often, because it's just you could build some crazy stuff with that system with the mechs and all the different parts and pieces you can bring in.
yeah, it's super appealing to me. All right, so I was about to ask you a couple questions that are on these cards. So let's roll some dice because this is a game show, I think. Let's share some screenage. Oh, no peeking. That's for later.
Right.
uh Tegan picked Emissary, and I'm very excited about that because that feels like a very different kind of a character background with some like yeah connections to it. But out of the gate, let's roll a d20 and see what we're talking about today.
Let's see. Four.
All right. Oh, well, this is like a YouTube one. What started you making videos? What was your approach, your big idea, your motivation to start taking it to the airwaves of YouTube?
Well, I'll give because the first time on YouTube was another channel, Dungeon Jedi Masters, which is like all about Star Wars 5e, which is like a variant of the 5e system. That was just me and my friend kind of messing around. DJ Gaming was started because I realized there wasn't a lot of like YouTube channels that covered games like in depth. A lot of people would kind of like pick up the book and kind of read through it and give some cool pieces about the mechanics and some like the what goes into the system. But I didn't see a lot of people that really kind of dove in, show you how to make a character, how to like get for mechanics, and then like actually showed you how it's played. So that's what I wanted to do because with 5e, like there's so much content you can see out there about people going over character builds, and mechanics, and all of these things. Where there's a lot of great TTRPG systems where there's like little to none out there for that. So I wanted to be a small part of that to kind of show off the systems and give people a chance to, especially if they're playing the system and looking to how to build a character, how those core mechanics work, have a
Mhm.
little bit easier time to get into it.
Yeah, and I really appreciate that about your channel where you go deeper because every TTRPG is two things at once, right? You have like the mechanical system side of things, and then there's this like either implicit or explicit like world building tonal like style side of things, and hopefully they connect in some way. But I find a lot of channels like will either speak to one or the other without going too deep in it. And you cover it all and then play the thing. And I think that's important.
It's one of those too, because like I found systems where I thought the mechanics on their own, like, oh, this sounds interesting, but I didn't think it would play well. I mean, Blade, I'm gonna pick on one that I ended up loving, but Blades the Dark. I wasn't sure about the mechanics at first. It was like it seemed like a lot of like cool stuff, like kind of high level stuff, I should say, but the table it became one of my favorite systems. So I feel like it's one of those ones it's at least for me, I need to play it out, see how it runs, just to kind of get a good feel for it.
Same. Like when I don't know. I mean, because I do talk a lot about 5e, and like when the playtests started coming out for whatever, one D&D 5.5, I pretty quickly decided I can't talk about this because I can't judge this in a vacuum, right? Here's this one thing that the die roll is doing. It's like, okay, well, how does that interact with like show me the monster side of things and show me like how this system interacts with that. So until you're like in it, you don't exactly understand how everything is firing together. Um, so yeah,
Glad I'm not the only one with that because I haven't done the surveys. My players on my Discord channel were giving me crap about it. They said you should like go out like it's like I don't feel like playing a game each time they come out with something new just to see how it works. but
right, right. Give me the game. Okay, but
yeah,
like how do you feel about this one thing? That's the recipe for power creep, I think, is that uh oh right. And I should say Dungeon Jedi Masters also was checking out links to everything downstairs up in the tops. Yes, definitely check out. So bonus question. You started talking about how you shouldn't try to make 5e into everything and then how you did that with Star Wars. Um, what is your let's say what is the closest to the Star Wars science fiction, science fantasy? Like what's your sci-fi TTRPG of choice going for that Star Wars vibe?
definitely. Well, for Star Wars vibe, actually it still works. Stars Without Number is probably my favorite
Hmm.
TTRPG for the science fiction side. Great thing is Kevin Crawford, like the NBA, I mean, wants to yell at him, but he like gives so much of it out for free. You could go and like download the PDF for it, and like 80% of the system is on there. Like, and everything you need to run the game is on there. There's a couple extra GM pieces that are locked behind the paywall, but he gives away like all like, none of the cool stuff for free. And the nice thing is they've got it's very easy to run. It's an OSR style, but they also have like some things to bring in if you wanted to bring in like force powers and things like that, they call it I forgot some psychic variant they call it. But you could flavor it as a force if you wanted to,
Hmm, hmm.
and it's easy to set up, very modular, and so many great GM tools on it, and it's free.
It's wild to me. I hear your yeah that pang of like man like get please everyone give him money because this is amazing. And yeah, any system like my like I've never run Stars Without Number, Cities Without Number, but like whoo, among the books I've opened the most, The Worlds Without Number has incredible world building tools from like the highest 50,000 foot like continent scale god pantheon to like down and like what are these goblins doing right now when we encounter them in the woods. Incredible resource if you haven't checked out. Yeah, please do. And you get most of it for free, but support creators you enjoy.
Support Kevin Crawford. Like he's amazing. I haven't checked out Cities Without Number, but I've got Stars, Worlds, and then Godbound, and every system I've seen from him I've loved. But and to your point, like I feel like I've gotten more information just like the World Without Numbers like GM section than like some of the game master guys because it's just so many tools on how to build a world, how to shape it, how to run certain factions and pieces like that. It's even if you don't want to run the system, buy it just for seeing what you can do as a GM.
Yeah, I took Stars Without Numbers out because I was like prepping a Lasers and Feelings, which is the opposite, which is I think you actually talk about it too. It's a one page RPG, and it's straight like you got two stats. It's like it's very simple mechanically, and it's like oh this is awesome, this is simple. I need to build a galaxy right now. I think I'm just I'm giving my players a starship. They could do any I need options here, and like oh man, you could just it's a mini game in and of itself. It's just world building all day.
Oh,
Yeah,
was lasers and feelings. That's on my list. I've never done a one pager. That's the one pager I want to try first.
it's fun. I like my personal like I like variety, but I do like tactical, crunchy. I like the dice and the story happening, and I'm like massaging it along. I think if you have the right table, you need more input from the players. You can't just have the DM. I mean, if I'm the GM, you can't just have one person producing all of this story because it does the system isn't as telling you as much. But if you're all willing to pull your weight, it can be a lot of fun, especially if you're like zoomed in on like, okay, this is the vibe, right? If I'm playing Star Wars and you're playing Star Trek, there's going to be a clash there. But if you were all like, okay, this is what we're going for, it gets out of the way and lets you tell that story.
Yeah, because that's been on my list. Because I've never tried. I realized I didn't try the one pages when I was doing the video.
Hmm.
You mentioned that's something I've got to try, and I love John Harper stuff, so that's high on my list.
Yeah. I'll also everything we talk about, I'll put downstairs. That's all. I'm 90% sure that is also available for free.
Yeah, it's free
Uh,
too. Yeah.
right? Yeah. Okay, so yeah, amazing free resources, but like, yeah, that's by John Harper. Go pay for Blades in the Dark if you enjoy that, or throw throw him dollars. All right, let's get that was deeply fulfilling, but let's get another D20 on the tabletop. Oh, oh,
Yeah, yeah.
almost a nat 20, but we got a 15. Do 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 do.
The 4 hours word. I played a game last night with my crew, Pandemonium, actually, for the Pathfinder game. I was rolling terribly. So I think I rolled like two times over 15. So I'm hoping I break my luck today.
Ooh, some nights are like there's no bad rolls here. There is like a
True.
shift in focus from the top to the bottom, but like yeah, natural one isn't like I gotcha. All right. Name a moment that would be on your TTRPG highlight reel. So the opposite of never rolling above a 10. Uh um yeah, what would that be? On the player side, on the game master side?
This one, this is probably the one that always comes to mind, like with a crazy moment. This was in an old campaign I did, Invasion. It's a Star Wars campaign with Yuzon Vog invading the galaxy, and the players trying to fight back against them. They basically got themselves in like a laboratory shaper's den that they call it, and they had like one of the hardest fights I put a group through. And I was over there like half my brain was planning like how do we handle this if it's a TPK? The whole fight that this is going through. But the players managed to like come together, strategize, and eventually beat it. And they survived. There's two players left standing. One of them had died. One of them straight died. The out of the four, the other one was on death saving throws. two people managed to bring it home, and they shared 3 HP amongst them. But they had some crazy strategies. They busted out like resources they I didn't know they still had. Like they went like all out. It's just one of those ones because like I literally was like, okay, if they so I'll have some of them roll death saves. The others will get captured if they survive the death saves. This is what we'll do with the TPK. I was like half of that planned out, and they managed to kind of just completely with a couple crits just pull it away. So
Mhm.
that's what I always think of because I was sure they were going to lose. One of the monsters I had too, like it was had a breath weapon, and I rolled a 6 3 times on different turns. Just and it just kept like, and I roll open rolls, so they always know. So like, okay, I've got to use it now. But
Mhm. Mhm.
they survived, they beat it, and it was just a fun moment. It was like the energy at the table was crazy.
I love that stuff because that's when immersion peaks a lot of the time. When you are like on death's door, you're scrambling because like that's what your character is feeling right now in a fight to the death, and like you don't always feel it in a typical combat, let's say. But yeah, man, those like grueling tactical battles where you're finding things that you forgot were written in your inventory or your on the character sheet, some ability you haven't used and levels like that's yeah that's always a peak experience. I love that stuff. I also love like, all right, what if this is a TPK, what are we doing here? And there's options, folks. It's not necessarily the end of the road. It's not the end of the story. It's the beginning of a good one sometimes.
Exactly. I was actually kind of happy. I was because I was back my brain like half the fight. I'm like, okay, this could be a good story. This can actually be a little dark, but it would be good. Man, they pulled it. I was really happy they pulled it through. But I was a little sad. Like this could have been a fun story, but yeah, there's always options, people.
We can make an argument about Empire. I mean, I'm sure you have strong opinions with your the pictures behind you. Pictures is not, I mean, blueprints. I'm not even pictures just doesn't do it justice. But there's something about Empire. There's something about Empire because the good guys lose, and like that is a powerful story beat. And that's not the end of the trilogy, but you feel if you're waiting for the next session more than when the Ewoks are dancing, right? Like
True.
it's a different vibe. It's a different vibe. You're eager for the next session.
It's always it's hard sometimes for TTRPGs to do that right, but Empire is my favorite, hands down. But yeah, it's always kind of cool to get that moment where the heroes backs against the walls, but they lose for that moment and they kind of still rebound and try to keep coming back.
Mhm.
It's always fun we can bring those moments to the table properly because it's difficult. It's easy to do in a movie where you can just like write it through, but with the players you got to like make sure you keep that ownership, keep them doing things creatively. It's always a hard balance when you can get that. It's amazing.
Yeah, because it's easy to. I mean, it depends on the system, but it's easy to overdo. It's easy. Whoops, this is unwinnable. And it's yeah, in 5e, it's a very fine line. In something like Pathfinder, I think the math's like a little tighter. It's a little easier to know what you're signing up for. Um, but
Cater, but definitely if you're rolling hot like I was a couple
whoa,
sessions ago, it can really change it. Like my dice rolls are like the very like either I'm rolling hot for a day or I'm just off for a day. It's rarely in the middle.
that's it. And it's yeah, you can go on real crit streaks in Pathfinder 2e too, because it's like
Yeah.
it's not just a nat 20. It's like crit. I've had a couple nights of those. I'm like, oh, we're gonna have to take our foot off the gas here, or else everyone's done. All right, let's do another d20, please, and thank you.
Oh, where did that go? Oh, there it went. All right, 7.
Thought it was a one for a second there. I was gonna be excited. Okay, other than Star Wars, other sources of inspiration for your tabletop role playing games.
Oh, so and with my fantasy games, I think the biggest source I take a lot from, I love mythology. I kind of love like Greek mythology in particular,
Mm,
with kind of like, 'cause- and I feel like it fits tabletop really well because you got these crazy powerful beings, but they're not like great gods. They're not like great people. They're pretty terrible if you look at all the things they do. They provide a lot of great drama because they're going through, they're doing things, they're creating adventures and things that need to be right, wrongs that need to be righted. And I think it's like the perfect space for tabletop. And I feel like I steal a lot of my like inspiration from my fantasy world just from mythology, because building them through that and just kind of giving the gods, the people, the powerful mages who kind of rub the world just different flavor like that, and having them be human people with their own designs and interests just really adds a lot of like elements you can bring into it. And it's different kind of hooks for adventures and have like the pettiness of Greek mythology played out on the tabletop.
Yeah, I like that answer a lot because it is they are it's a very human set of gods, right? Like Zeus is out there fooling around and has been, there's some marital strife there, and everyone's picking sides and different sides, and like it's just like a big dysfunctional family, and that's drama, that's story.
That's one of the reasons I love it too, because sometimes like with like even like the D&D and Pathfinder gods, like they're so like not high up, like they're so removed from things. They can almost make the story and make stories easier to tell because you don't have to worry about them interfering, but it also makes stories they're doing something terrible a little bit harder to bring into focus. So I like kind of making mine a little bit more of that Greek mindset where they're doing whatever they want to do,
Mhm.
regardless of the consequences.
Yeah, and the idea of like, all right, I don't know, there's a golden ox on this random encounter table, and it's secretly the god of, thunder or war.
Yeah.
What do you do, right? You just walk on by, or like, yeah, and then it's like, well, okay, you don't engage with it, but like, what is that? What is that ox doing? We'll keep it PG, but things
Definitely.
things get weird.
Not if he sees you walk by and not engage with him some way, they could be mad about that as well. Like,
It's true. Do deference. I like that a lot. Yeah, good. Give me another roll, please and thank you. 12.
all right.
We kind of touched on this just now, but how deadly do you like your game?
So with Pathfinder, I'm kind of still building up to Deadly. I usually like that's one of my main campaign games when I run long, full-term campaigns. I love tactical games where you have a lot of options and resources and things you can employ. And I like to make deadly fights. I like to make the fights where you if you don't play it well, it could be a TPK, it could be a death. So that's one of the things I really enjoy there. I'm kind of building there with Pathfinder. It's a newer system for my main system for me, so I'm still like I'm holding back a little bit just to make sure I know what I'm doing before I like throw something crazy at them. But for D&D or Star Wars 5e, I love just throwing like crazy stuff and kind of seeing how the crew will manage to get out of it, whether it be kind of through some crazy RP aspects or even just like going through and just tactically just beating it. It's always nice to kind of see that played out. And I like being surprised by what my players do. So I would like to have that deadly level. And especially like I play a lot of 5e. The fights can get a little long. And I always, and as a player or a game master, if the fight's going to be long, I want it to be long and tension filled and not long where we know we're going to win.
God, yes. Yes, there's a lot of those moments of like the conclusion is very clear from the outset, but it's just like, all right, how long is this going to take? An hour and a half? Okay. Like, yeah, and it's what, and in Pathfinder, there's a whole lot of things, there's a whole lot of crazy things you can throw at the player. So it is, I was very cautious when I started and like wiped a couple parties by accident.
Same, like so luckily before we started doing the new stream or the new actual play for it, we did a lot of one shots. And luckily we started right as we started getting into the groove because the first few ones like I was just wiping. I'm like, this says it's a moderate encounter. I even came up with a trivial encounter once, but as we both all got more used to the system, it started to go a little bit better too.
And I do think a part of that is the tactics on the player's side are crunchier, right? There's more buttons on the character sheet, there's more things they can do, but like the three action economy and there's like way smarter strategies. And it's not just like, okay, what are you going to do with this action? It's like, what is the combination that you are going to pull with the other characters at the table? Because there's that was my real enjoyment with that system was like there was so much synergy between the different player characters that if you're not working as a team, a trivial counter can wipe you and a deadly counter can be easy. It's very much skill based as much as it is, whoops, I rolled a six again. You guys are getting the breath weapon. Um,
That has been one of my favorite things with Pathfinder, is it really does encourage that team play. Which I always love when like the players just kind of like let's go kind of do like their classes kit, like whatever the best moment or resource for their class is, but look and kind of see what the other teammates are doing, kind of what's needed in the counter, really kind of synergize. I think Pathfinder encourages it for some fights, requires it for others. So that's been really cool for me to see.
Mm. Yeah, that's yeah. If you like tactical, check it out. And players, make support casters. Come on,
Definitely, yeah.
keeps you engaged the whole time. All right, let's do one more. I'm feeling one more d20. Let's pop them up here.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, all right.
I think I got 7 before, right?
Ooh, is that doubles? That's doubles. All right, lightning
Okay.
rounds. Da-da-da-da. So this doesn't have to be yes, no. Maybe we've touched on these already. Do you fudge dice rolls?
I don't. So I open roll, so the players can see all my dice rolls. The most I'll do is you sometimes I will fudge HP, mostly up or down, depending on if it's the fight's gonna end the first round or the fight's gonna be a slog and everybody knows where it's going, and then I bring it down just to make that quicker and kind of get back to the fun.
Game master of my own heart. What is your favorite size of dice? So not like, oh, this is my favorite D20, like D4, D6, D10, and so on. What's your favorite die size?
I saw that before, and I was really debating about it. The D20 has a really cool spot in my heart. I love D20 systems. I think the D8's my favorite. I think
Mm,
it's what I rolls most often outside of the D20. So I think that's just the one I usually kind of gravitate towards. It's the one I fiddle with at my desk most often.
interesting. And is that shape based, or you like the probability? Like you roll it the most often, doing what? Like,
So keep based a little bit, and there's a lot of my characters for 5e, even
mm,
Pathfinder, just had the D8 weapon. So it's like the one
mhm.
I just kind of always gravitated towards, and it's just become my favorite. I think just by familiarity, probably.
Nice, good answer. Do you run published stuff or homebrew stuff?
So I almost always run homebrew. Half the fun for me is like daydreaming, kind of figuring out what adventures we could do and try to remember it or write it down quickly. So I found that I don't like to do the modules as much. It kind of throws me off my usual rhythm.
uh encumbrance, which is maybe a more D&D 5e term, but how do you feel about like inventory management systems?
Usually, my rule for players with 5e is I'm not going to make you use encumbrance unless you get silly. So if you try to pick up everything or you try to like just get ridiculous with it, we're going to use encumbrance. But I don't want to track it. I don't want to have to make you track it. So don't make me make you have to track it.
I'm gonna put that on my DM screen. Don't make me make you. Let's stay with our high fan. Well, no, actually, no. No limits. Favorite class.
Favorite class? Actually, for both systems, even for 5e, it's not my like, monk is my favorite. I love
Oh,
monks. I love being able to be mobile and stunning striking. And I know there's a whole bunch of arguments about monks being underpowered, and I agree with them, but it's still one of my favorites to play. And Pathfinder 2e monk is really really cool too. So it's just I like the flavor, I like the mobility, and I like all the cool stuff you can do with it.
yeah. Just because you think something is underpowered doesn't mean you don't love it. It's almost like they did my boy dirty. Like, come on.
You still
Uh,
have a blast with it. Still have some cool counters, especially if your GM kind of leans to it a little bit.
Yeah, God, mobility. Yeah, if it's tactical, it's on a grid, and you're not moving, something's you're leaving game on the table. Like,
Exactly.
favorite ancestry, lineage, however you want to classify that.
So some of my players are gonna laugh right now. People I've played with. If I'm a player, Dragonborn. I love Dragonborn. I was gonna play by post server, and I realized I did 3 Dragonborn characters in a row, completely different classes and backstories. But even just like didn't even realize it myself. But that's what I gravitate towards. And even in my homebrew world, they've got some crazy stuff going along with them too.
Nice. What in your homebrew world, what is the quick Spark Notes like Dragonborn vibe? Like what makes them different?
Definitely. So the Umber World Kazuya, the Dragon Board, they're the second board race. Elves are board first, but they were the ones that first kind of mobilized. The elves kind of did their own thing. The Dragonborns made an empire. They started conquering through. They're kind of a little bit more of a stoic race, otter based, but definitely martial. They're the ones that kind of are the ones that are most likely to send their armies out and start to kind of spread the empire. Their slogan is "One world, one empire, one emperor." It's kind of their overall goal.
All right, Fear the Dragonborn. Do you like to frame combat as sport or combat as war?
But, so What's that would mean a little bit, actually?
Yeah, so that I'm realizing that like I don't know that I've seen that more than most people, I guess. I thought it was a more popular like framing, but it kind of loops back to like how deadly you like your fights of like
Oh yeah.
a lot of 5e is like combat as sport. Like we know who's gonna win this fight. It's about maybe like resource management. Whereas like this is potentially deadly every time we roll initiative, and I need to make sure I have every advantage lined up before we start.
I usually treat it like war, with a little bit of a caveat, because I love the tactical, the kind of the combat side, but I do love people play their characters as they would. So I love when your character kind of rushes into a situation like Luke Skywalker rushing to go fight Vader and Empire. Even if it may not be the best tactical call, if that's your call, I love when you do it. So it's definitely war, but don't play the optimized, does everything by the book. Go through, have some reckless, and let's see what comes of it.
Like it. Roll for stats or standard array or point buy. What's your generation of choice?
Oh yeah, I'm boring. I like point buy. As a player, like I completely prefer point buy. As a GM, it's just easier. Everybody has the same background. You don't have to worry about somebody being super strong or somebody super weak. And with point buy, you can customize everything you need to.
Yeah, I think a lot of people who haven't spent a lot of time behind the GM screen, whatever system, like game balance is not necessarily between the player and the monster, the player and the game master side. It's about the players feeling like
Yeah.
they're balanced and beyond like character creation, there's not a lot that the game master can do during play to right that imbalance if it's there. So yeah, I mean, I think don't apologize for point buy. That's the right answer. Um, in your homebrew when you're running games, do you tack more to like the tactical balance side of like level appropriate challenges, or more like realism, like this is what the world would be doing, so this is what's here today?
Bit of a mixture. So kind of like if the players kind of focus kind of where they go. So if they decide they want to go level 3 and rock up against the dragons, they're going to get dragons that are real dragons. They're going to fight them whatever with whatever toolkit they've got. But if they're going up against kind of if they're appropriately going up against the adventure, kind of whatever they're doing, it'll usually be level appropriate. But sometimes, in case they made some poor decisions too, it can still get stacked on with more allies or enemies jumping into the fray. It kind of depends, but usually it's going to be a balanced, hard to beat, but still balanced encounter, unless they just decide, hey, we're going to rock up to the king and demand he gives us our crown or something.
What is your favorite third party tool, right? So the thing that you're reaching for, regardless of what system you're reaching for.
That's a good question. Oh, well, actually, easy now. It's my least favorite part of GMing, but it's my favorite tool to use to do my least favorite part of GMing.
Okay.
Uh, Incarnate, the map maker resource makes it easy enough. I'll complain only slightly about having to do it because I've tried to use like maps I found online, but it's always not exactly the way I want it. So that I'll have to go in and mess with it. And I hate messing with it, but Incarnate makes that process less painful than it could be.
Man, I've just, like so many times I found a cool map and then we're like 2 hours into it and someone's like, "Oh, what's that crystal?" I was like, "What crystal?" And then I zoom in, I was like, that's not there." Or, but that's unsaid. I don't know. It's worth 50 gold pieces. I didn't know
I've
that was
done the
on there.
same thing. And the crazy thing, I've got like a gig in my like laptop just saved with different maps that I really don't even use anymore. Like I find a cool map and I save it, and then I'm like, I'll come back to this.
Hmm.
Never do.
Hmm. This is going to be a challenging question for you, perhaps. But what is your favorite non-D&D game? And I'm gonna lump Pathfinder into that too.
Perfect. I'm gonna break this out to genres because I've got three favorites, just depending on the genre that it's going to go through.
I would be disappointed if it was only one answer.
My favorite for like sci horror, Aliens. The Alien system, Free League is like one of the most competent publishing units out there. Like I've never bought anything bad from them, but Aliens was amazing. Like it hits the sci horror beats. It gives a lot of cool tools for the game master to kind of go through and make it feel like it's a horror kind of game. And I love sci-fi, so that's one of my favorites. Um, I'm just gonna put the worlds without numbers system or the without number system because I like worlds, I like stars. I haven't played cities yet, but I imagine I like cities too, and I think that's just a great like OSR resource to kind of lump things into and kind of get into that kind of style of it. And then one of my other ones, I don't know what the genre to put this into, but the Die RPG, we're kind of based off the Die comics by Kieran Gillen. That one was amazing. I love the comic series, and if you ever like need inspiration for like starting off a campaign and kind of building relationships between people, check out their ritual system. It's like so cool. It's about an hour and a half or so. Perfect for session zero, but it gives like good characters for the PCs, as well as really good like emotional ties to the other party members, and it was just so much fun.
That's a new one to me. I'm gonna check that out. That's I like the sound of that a lot. Yeah,
Have
interesting.
you read the Die comics at all by Kieran?
No, you know it's fun. I like see it in my mind, but like no, I kind of felt I fell off comics at a fairly young age because I was a huge like X-Men guy and like like they killed Superman when I was like peaking and I was like this is great. And then like both everybody just like hit the reset button and nothing mattered and everybody started over and I was just like, "Oh, like this is there's no consequences anymore." But man,
I kind
yeah,
of
I don't
the
know. There's a
same
bunch
with
of
Disney Star Wars continuity thing. I'm like, oh well, we're not going to keep track of it anymore, I guess. So I'm
Yeah, in my adult years, I've gone like graphic novels. So like it was Sandman, I guess, is the most recent one. But like Watchmen was V for Vendetta, all that good stuff. But I can see it's funny. I can see the cover in my mind, but I wanted it. I've never opened it, and two, I didn't know they made a TTRPG out of it. So that's yeah, that is now on my list. So check
One
out.
last piece I'll put, 'cause I love the system. It's what I gush about a little bit too much. But it's actually Kieran wrote it to be a TTR. It's based like in the world, it's a
Mm.
TTRPG system where the people get pulled in, like Jumanji'd into it.
Uh,
So he actually wrote the TTRPG system in like tandem with the comic, which is crazy.
ooh, I love stuff like that. I love like cross media, like yeah, just give me all of the things. Okay, that's yeah, no, that just pushed that way up higher on the list. Um, all right, we're gonna take a quick little break, and then we're gonna build a character and build a world around that character, and we'll be right back. Ignite your imagination and unleash the pure potential of your tabletop role playing games with the Game Master's Compendium of Explosive Creation. Jam packed with ideas, tables, and tools to light up every session, help players develop deep and memorable characters, GMs craft rich and engaging archetype based NPCs, and connect all of these characters to the worlds they are exploring in significant and meaningful ways. And we are back and we are cooking up an emissary and out of the gate because I feel like this has maybe like a narrower focus. Like, do you have a character concept in mind going into this, or are we like starting from zero blank slate?
Actually, I hadn't had a character in mind for this one, so we can kind of flesh it out. But yeah, I'm kind of thinking somebody that goes into kind of tough situations and tries to find some options or tries to shut down poor options. Okay, go either way.
Okay, so like a negotiator type. So you're gonna
Yes.
roll one of everything. D20, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12.
All right. Sweet. Any particular order for to read off the
Uh,
dice or?
I'm gonna ask you for the D20 first.
Yeah. I got a
And
7 on the D20.
seven. And this is our motivation, our driving force here.
Okay.
So seven, you said, redeem the reputation of their homeland. I should mention we have a special guest, Dolly, with us for the second half.
Hey,
Forget I
Doc.
was holding a tiny dog. Redeem the reputation of their homeland. So what
Well,
is
them
this?
being an emissary, it could be like a nation that used to be pretty warlike, pretty aggressive, just kind of messed up a lot, like kind of was the reason for a lot of destruction with a lot of the nations or surrounding nation neighbors, and now they're trying to maybe a new king, a new ruler. They're trying to turn over a new leaf and sending out some emissaries to try to bring peace rather than war.
I don't want to force your hand here because this is your character, but based on what I know so far, this might be a dragonborn.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Okay, what is our D12?
Whoa. All right. Seven again.
Seven, nice. So this is our call to adventure. This is like, how did we go from being like maybe professionally an emissary to more of like the adventuring type? Why are we down on the adventuring road? They just could not stay in their homeland. Double sevens,
I'm
double
thinking
sevens.
maybe they were kind of forced to leave a little bit. Maybe one of their dads, one of their parents, will say, was kind of responsible. One of the generals, one of the leaders, responsible for the devastation. And now the new king's like, if you want to stay, if you want to still be part of this kingdom, you need to help out, try to start rebuilding those bridges.
That's interesting because that brings it down to like it's not just their homeland, it's like a familial legacy too. That brings it way closer to home. That's interesting. That's juicy. Yeah, you could run a lot with that. Your favorite, the D8. What you get on the D8?
On the D8, I got a one.
One. So this is the potential character arc. So this is the stuff you figure out by playing the game. What happens to your character obviously is going to help define them. But if you have some sort of trajectory to start, you can kind of lean back to give yourself room to go that way. So from outdated book smarts to earned experiences.
I think that fits, especially if he was the kid of a general, a kid of some aristocrat, or somebody that high leadership. He probably had an aristocratic background, well educated, but not really well experienced. So this is kind of his first time leaving kind of the royal grounds of the his home estate and actually being forced to kind of operate on his own and kind of see what he can do versus just kind of what the theories are, what the book learning says.
Yeah, I'm getting a little like Roman or a Greek. Yeah, just like a child of privilege, the general's child, and then yeah, the political structure shifts, and they're no longer so high up in the order. Um, yeah, this is fun already. What do we get for D4? This could be a friendly faction, a group that we have
Well,
some association with.
got a one on that one.
One, the expat community, small but tight-knit pocket of other people from their homeland. All
Think
right.
that fits. I mean, maybe he got kicked out with a contingent of other people that either followed those old generals before the new king took place. They're friendly to him because they believed in the old cause, but now they're kind of trying to adapt and trying to either kind of follow the new method with the king and this player are trying to bring, or at least trying to support this new character just due to the old ties they have.
Yeah, especially if they're like they're coming from a place of privilege and then that evaporates and these are the only people who still like respect their title or whatever. Yeah, it's like the old yeah, they maybe they served your father or served with your father. Yeah. Yeah, and that could do a couple different things depending on how the player and like the whole party interacts with them if they're gonna try to like, go overthrow the new king or who knows what.
It gives them fun. They could be an ally or they could be an enemy eventually if you keep kind of making decisions that tear down the legacy systems they liked and try to stop respecting the titles and old things that are kind of no longer really relevant. You can
Mhm.
have some fun with that as a game
Mhm.
master, I think.
Mhm. Yeah, the people who are like holding on to the old ways are always an interesting morally gray grounds to yeah to mine. D6, we're gonna drill down into like more friendly NPC.
I got a two on this one.
Two, Franklin Benjamin. I'm sorry for that one, guys. Franklin Benjamin, a witty envoy from another nation who also tinkers with artifice. Ooh,
All
I
right.
want I want to be his friend.
Yeah, I need somebody that can build stuff for me. uh, so that could be an ally with him on that side, somebody that he's using to kind of help. Because especially he's trying to build bridges with the new nations and trying to kind of heal some of the destruction his parents caused. You need somebody that knows how to fix stuff and build stuff for you. So frankly, kind of be along for the journey either because he believes in the cause or he just needs an excuse to whip out new inventions.
I like that a lot. Yeah, there's this like the chance to discover maybe you were like studying together and he also has all these book smarts and wants to go test his theories and fly kites and lightning storms. All right, now this I said it doesn't really matter what you get, but on the D10 it kind of does. What did you get on the D10? This is going to be a trinket up to and including powerful magic item.
I got a three on the D10.
Three, an ink-filled quill. Ingenious invention allows for writing on many surfaces without an inkwell.
Makes sense on that side. I mean, he's probably somebody that spent most of his life in academia, writing things, and probably still taking copious notes now that he's out in the real world, trying to kind of bridge things over. So writing through and probably writing on stuff too as he goes through, trying to find areas where Franklin Benjamin can kind of help and improve, like maybe either a dam or a bridge that his father may have destroyed during a campaign, and
Mhm.
you kind of see about their sketching designs to help Franklin get it going.
That's so cool to like roll up to these like ruins, and they're ruins because your people ruined it, your dad ruined it. That's yeah, that adds a lot to an adventure location.
They could have some fun with it because it's probably like a weird mix of like you're still kind of proud that your dad was able to be this accomplished and did all the because when you're conditioned for a long time to be
Mhm.
proud of whatever your dad did, all that side, but you're kind of seeing the results of it and kind
Mhm.
of one of those ones you keep that pride, you want to help, but you still kind of feel like they deserved it. Where's your player's head? Or where's your head at in all this?
Yeah, you can take it in quite a few directions. And I'm partial to these like kind of weaker magic items that are just like this isn't going to solve this isn't going to make numbers big in a fight, but like if you're creative, there's a ton of different ways to use this thing.
Those are
Um,
always fun because it is one of those ones like you'll forget the player had it, and then till one time they find that like one perfect use for it, and something crazy happens.
and I just pull out the Sharpie. It's like, oh right, I forgot. Are you do you have a an inkling of what kind of like class we're building here?
It's a good question. I was kind of thinking with this one, either kind of because he's pretty smart. So I'm thinking like maybe a wizard. If we were going to do a 5e, if I was doing Pathfinder for this guy, I might even throw him as either a rogue or a scholar, or not scholar, a rogue or investigator on this
Hmm.
side because he's going out, especially the investigator, kind of going out trying to figure out how he can bridge peace on the side. Give him a decent charisma stat. Just kind of give him a lot of different lores and knowledges he's learned from his time traveling.
Yeah,
And
that's
Rogue would fit too well with that too in 5e because just give him a lot of different knowledge stats, a little bit of expertise and persuasion maybe, and kind of see what he can do.
yeah, like a charisma based rogue, like a what is swashbuckler? Is that the 5e the Pathfinder class?
Oh, yeah, Swashbuckler too for
Swashbuckler.
Pathfinder, yeah. So they
Yeah,
get a lot of charisma stuff and panache and all that.
it's like a rogue with style.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got some like wizardly vibes between like the quill and the book
Yeah.
smarts and the but yeah, investigator's a good one. Investigator's like I haven't sunk my teeth into that, but that opens up like whole new avenue of play. And so like be investigating the crime scene of your of the war that your father led. Yeah, that's interesting. Um all right, yeah, that's a rich character out of the gate with a lot of like possibility. We're gonna switch hats and we're gonna go over to the game master side of things. And we're gonna build some potential adventure. So we're gonna do D6s now for a little bit. Roll me a D6, please, and this is gonna give us a less than friendly faction.
All right. I got a one.
One, the Ironwood Table, a group of nobles who jealously guard their influence and identities. Interesting.
Oh, this fits well with I think our guy on the side because he's tried to. This can either be from the kingdom he was exiled from, or the kingdoms he's trying to build the bridges. But somebody just people like the status quo. He's out here trying to disrupt the status quo, trying to rehabilitate his family's image and the image of his kingdom. People aren't going to be happy about that. They're definitely going to try to start plotting against him, seeing how they can either make him look bad so he has to go home, or force him to fail, or even just take him off the board completely.
Yeah, it's fun. So like instantly I was like, okay, these are people who are like aligned with his father, who like the old ways, but like it being on the other side, because we're not in this homeland. We're in emissary. We have
Mhm.
left our home. We're in a new place. So like there are equal and opposite factions in, wherever we may be, who maybe they were like profiting off of these wars. They liked the old setup. So you are a threat to their purses, if not their roles in society. Yeah, I like that a lot.
Especially with war and having an easy enemy that everybody hates, makes everybody easier to kind of control as well.
Mm,
Rehabilitated enemy makes a little bit harder. So I can see them trying to keep the
mm.
kingdom of the emissaries from as being as the bad guys, so they can keep doing whatever they're doing without people paying too much attention to them.
And I really like this angle of like you can't just they're painting your people as these like crazed, violent warmongers, so you can't just go and kill these guys off. You have to use the rest of your skill set as the emissary to like interact with them. Give me another D6. We're gonna drill down into a rival or an enemy NPC.
I got a five.
Five is Ixar, proclaims foreigners carry demonic influence, was right once and gained a following.
So this, I think this fits pretty well with Ironwood Table too. He's kind of complaining that the, maybe one of the people from the kingdom had a was possessed by a demon. Now he's just saying everybody from the kingdom is possessed by a demon. Is coming after our emissary, probably claiming that they're demon possessed and are going to corrupt the whatever kingdom that he's in.
Oh man, I want yeah that would be a fun NPC to role play. He just shows up on every street corner yelling at the party.
Like just that is crazy. But people still follow him, still listen, just not like, oh, he's got that right.
Yeah, he was right about that. One guy had a demon in him, so it's I don't know. He's onto
He's got a
something.
good track record. One of the other people he's accused proved they didn't have a demon in them.
Oh man, yeah. Can you prove to me you don't have a demon in you? That was that's good. We're gonna do another D6 for evocative location. So this could be a huge cinematic story beat or just like a little one or offshoot dungeon. What you get for D6?
Six.
Six, the dread halls, puzzles and traps enforce the original builder's twisted sense of decorum. Interesting.
I could easily see this being a spot that the Ironwood table would trap our emissary in, with just like this really like posh, like fancy, like kind of like mansion or like kind of palatial estate that just kind of just whips, twists you, and kind of keeps you restrained, and they're like hard to find your way out. But still like luxury, but the restraining luxury. Like you can't really leave, you can't really do anything. You're living in comfort, but you're trapped in comfort.
That's interesting. Fighting your way out of like a gilded cage of like
Yeah,
throwing like a bunch of like animated furniture and suits of armor and like rugs of smothering. And it's just like this couch
yeah.
is really comfortable and it won't let you leave. I like that. Little like
So one of the bundled two from Spitspins for 5e where they had like the money monster, gold horde
mm,
monster.
mm,
That could be a fun one too, kind of walking through, kind of seeing the gold start to shift with you as you go, until you actually try to leave and it like pushes back.
mm. Yeah, I like that a lot. Just like cursed treasure is always fun.
Yeah.
And like mimics, there's still mimics in there because throw mimics everywhere. Speaking of mimics, give me a final D6 for a thematic monster. It's a pit against our emissary.
I got a five.
Five, a psionic siren. So as close as we're gonna get to Jedi, maybe. An aberrant envoy claiming to seek allies, really seeking slaves and subjects. All right.
Okay. So, kind of fits in well too. People that are kind of with you with the higher table, or even somebody that's competing with the new the kingdom's new direction, and they're trying to bend people to their whim, and the emissaries try to spread a different message, and they kind of want them out of the way. They want their voice to be the only one that's heard.
I like that. And I want to see like how that interacts with this Ixar character.
Oh,
Like,
I
maybe
feel like it'd be funny too for Ixar if he was kind of partnered up with a psychic siren, but had no idea the psychic siren had any abilities. He thinks it's just some follower that's just hanging out with him for because they believe his message. But the psychic siren is kind of just using him to get more people around him because people listen to Ixar for some reason.
love that. I love that a lot. Oftentimes we don't need this by the time we get down here, but we can keep coming back to this well because you always need a plot hook, especially if you're running sandbox style. But the more the merrier. So give me one final D20 roll, to see a little adventure seed.
I got a 19.
19. Mad or misguided, leadership is engineering an apocalypse, but working against them is treason. Ooh.
Maybe the Iron Table is trying to kind of start war back up with the kingdom. It's definitely one that kind of lead to mutually assured destruction. Maybe they've both got some crazy magical artifacts and things like that that kind of their version of nukes. That if it goes to war again, gets pressed again, it could lead to that. But the high table, either they're nihilistic and think they can survive, or they just think that they could overcome the kingdom without that going off and are pressing on with their hubris.
Yeah, this is like just your presence and the shift in the political structure in your homeland is like an opportunity to them. It's like, all right, this is now now is the time to strike. They want peace. Get them. Perpetual war for perpetual peace. That was it. So that was a very like this feels like a very politic. What you pulled a lot of like the House of Traps. This felt like a very different kind of a campaign to run, or maybe like a little like side splinter within because you know you whatever you have four or five other players at the table. This is a nice like counterbalance to a lot of what you would get of just like smash and grab dungeoneering.
Yeah, like you just mentioned, it'd be like a perfect like little like arc, a couple sessions, like maybe 4 or 5 on that side, just divergence. If you're focusing on different character backgrounds, you kind of come across this one for the player and get a little politics side. They have to kind of figure out how to solve an issue without just pulling out the swords. They got to going at it.
Yeah, and then when all else fails, that's always an option too.
Yeah, swords always work. Swords.
Oh, well that was a lot of fun. Thank you for joining us today, Tegan. That was great. Everybody go check out the live plays, play Pandemonium, your awesome guides. What's on deck? What's next? I mentioned you're doing Fabula. I'm still uncomfortable saying that out loud. But what's coming up next? What's the next deep dive game you're going for?
I still don't know if I pronounced it. I actually got a couple of the commenters help me out on that. I think it's Fabula Ultima, but I'm still not sure. I need to hear somebody else say it out loud. I need to look for like a video of people talking about it. But for April, we were diving into one that's been on my list for a while, and they finally did a reprinting of the hardcover. We were jumping into Dragon Age. So if you guys played the old school Bioware games, 15 years, 20 years now. I can go back in the time for how long ago it is. But it's one of my favorite game series, and I'm so happy they made a tabletop RPG. I get a hardcover of it to read too, so we're going to be diving into that, showing you how to bring that world to your tabletop.
Nice. I like that a lot. I'm excited to see those. Well, one thing I failed to mention, is that you do like a first little flip through, and then you do the deeper dive on like the rule set and the crunchiness. You play it, but the fourth part of your recipe there is a giveaway, which I think people would get excited about about knowing that that's a thing too.
I should have mentioned that. That's a great point. So yeah, we each time we do a game of the month, we give away a free PDF copy of the rule set, usually through Drive Through RPG. And actually, I should shout out to sometimes we are able to work with the publishers too, and they're able to provide a copy as well. Actually, shout out to Shauna Germain for Old Gods of Appalachia. She was. I think our only one, or first for sure, that not only provided a PDF but also sent one of the winners a hardcover. So
Hmm.
they had your own book with it too. Just part of that's why one of the big reasons for the chance I want to get more people play other RPGs. So when you if you come and hang out with us during one of our live actual plays, we're going to raffle it off, and you get a chance to bring that home and hopefully have some fun tables with you or fun tales with you and your table.
Awesome. So go check it out for free stuff and for all of the other reasons, spread your wings, stretch out. And yeah, it's just a great on-ramp to seeing a bunch of different TTRPGs and like how to approach them and how to think about them. And yeah, again, can't hit it hard enough. Good vibes.
I really appreciate that, man. Thank you for having me on too. Especially, I've never done something like the character build before. That was a lot of fun. So I appreciate you kind of reaching out, and this has been a blast.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, man. Have a good one. And everybody out there, be kind, have fun, and we'll see you next time.